Got his Sunday go to meeting clothes on.
You what?
He got his Sunday go to meeting clothes on. Church clothes.
But I don't know.
I don't know.
Sweetie, anytime. Y'all always doing good. I bid y'all a good day.
All right, Jesse, thank you.
Jesse, good.
She says additional benefits could include mental and telehealth services and dental, vision, and hearing coverage. Most companies will hold open enrollment for their employees between now and the end of the year. There are several people on social media making medical claims and advising people in areas they may not be trained in. Randall says it's important to avoid scams and misinformation.
You want to make sure that you're checking the source, that you're getting your information from a credentialed medical professional or a reputable organization. Look to see if they've included links to research and the evidence of the information that they're giving accessible to you.
In a recent survey, 43% of people say they regret the health decision they've made based on inaccurate information. I'm Freda Ross, Arkansas News Service.
When-
Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
When when Rose finished playing out, go ahead.
3 FM comes from listeners and community partners. If you're a business owner or planning an event and would like information on how it can be announced on KABF, contact our office at 501-372-6119. That's 501-372-6119.
Is your eyesight changing?
I can't read this anymore.
Don't lose hope. People just like you are working every day using Braille, screen magnification, speech technology, and other tools and blindness skills. Your eyesight may have changed, but your goals.
Can you hear the CD
they don't
comes
have
on?
to.
When the CD is
We
playing,
can
can
help.
they hear us talk?
Visit us on the web at blind.org. The
As
National
long as you don't
Federation
turn the
of
mic
Blind.
on.
Live the life you want.
This Halloween weekend, join us for the horrors of renting in Arkansas, a community-made haunted house that turns real renter struggles into a spooky, funny, and eye-opening experience. Meet characters like the Mold Man, Scarecrow Tom, ghoulish lobbyists, and spooky politicians as you tour your new haunted slum apartment complex. Suggested donation is just $5.
Can you hear through your mic?
Turn away.
You don't have yours
We've
in?
got snacks and refreshments for everyone. So come out, have fun, and support fair housing in our community. 2101 South Main Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, 4 to 6 p.m. October 31st, November 1st. All proceeds go to support grassroots rental organizing across Arkansas.
There you go. It's a short.
far. Hey, you know what time it is? It's after 9 o'clock. You heard the music, so you know it's time for the workplace here exclusively on KABF 88.3. I'm your host for the workplace, Toney Orr. And of course, my fierce, vivacious, strong co-host is in the control seat this morning. The Reverend Dr. Denise.
I really thought that was a one-time thing. I guess that was wrong.
I got to quit watching basketball on Wednesday nights before I come here on Thursday morning because that's what those announcements.
Oh, is that what
be
it
doing.
is? Okay.
Yeah. So I hope everybody is doing well this morning. I'm only going to be here for part of the show. Got meetings to go to. Like the song said, got work to do. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I just thank all of you for listening and tuning in this morning. Just want to say that we are so grateful and so appreciative of all of you who contribute to KABF 88.3 FM in so many different by listening to the shows, whether it's by showing up for different fundraisers, by events, or just by going, just telling other people about it, about what we do here at KABF. It's so gratifying when I'm out in the public and maybe at a store or just in the community and somebody walks up to me and say, I know your voice. You're on the radio, or they just say, you know what, we're proud listeners of KABF. So just want to thank all of you for tuning in this morning. Denise, do you have any announcements?
I don't think I have any announcements today. Oh, I do. Yes, I do. Rex Delaney at Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing. You do not want to miss this exhibit. I think I was talking to Ezekiel and he said something about Stokely Carmichael. I was like, oh my goodness, I just saw him. He's at Pyramid. So the art gallery is open as long as the store is open at 1001 Wright Avenue. Please, y'all need to see what's on the wall by this Black male artist. He's great, Rex Delaney.
And I'm going to do this. I know she probably, I don't say she may have a problem because I know she won't, but I want to do this. She mentioned this great artist named Rex Delaney.
I think it's Delaney.
Yeah, but let me tell you about another great artist, another great creative and just an imaginary artist that is just awesome. And I'm talking about the Reverend Dr. Denise Danielle.
Oh my goodness.
I know she's had her artwork at the University of Central Arkansas. It's been at 610. And where else has your artwork? When I tell you that.
That piece that just got the international was jury that I entered that contest or what?
Yes. Also, she had her art being displayed a couple years ago in the North Little Rock Argenta area for Pride.
Oh yes,
And when I tell you, if you see her artwork, you will just be amazed. And I would love to see her artwork in its own gallery where people can come and see it and buy it.
I'm working on it.
Because she is, she shouts out all these artists at Pyramid and other places, but I just want to give her a shout out. She is a great artist. She doesn't. I like the fact that she doesn't try to toot her own horn. That's what others have to do for her. But if you call her and ask her to present some art to you, you would lose your mind. You say, I want that. Whenever I go over her house, and go down her hallway and see something new, I'll say, oh, I want that. But then I go back and I say, forget about that. I want this. And so, but if you ever get the opportunity, like I said, call her, and I'm pretty sure she will allow you to. She will come to you and show you her art, and she will allow you to see it. But she is a great artist in her own right.
I appreciate that, Tony.
So I'm going to start the topic this morning. Like I said, I got some meetings I got to get to this morning, but I want to start out the conversation. There are a lot of conversations I've been having with Denise, with other people, with people in the community, and talking about this government shutdown, all this that's going on. One of the things that came to my mind as I was listening to some reports yesterday.
Keep going, Tony.
Yeah, one of the things I would think about as I was watching news reports last night is this fact of this idea of what we want and what we need. What we want and what we need. I look at what's going on, especially when it comes to federal workers and military, everybody within that federal sphere. Everybody wants to feel safe and secure. Everybody wants to be able to live in good neighborhoods. Everybody wants to be a living wage. These are things everybody wants. And so when we look at this past election, based on people who voted and people who didn't vote, they were looking at what they wanted. You had this person saying, I know what you want, and I'm going to give it to you. Which he didn't lie. I'm going to give you what you want. But in the end, we're not getting what we need. And so the question becomes, are we sacrificing our want? Are we sacrificing our needs for our wants? Because when I think about what's going on with farms, you got ranchers, these cattle ranchers who are all up in an uproar because the president gave $20 billion. $20 billion to Argentina to help save their economy. To buy, so that $20 billion now is they're going to import more beef from Argentina. And the cattle ranchers are like, hold up. You're bringing in beef from another country when we can't even sell the beef that we got in this country. You're stopping us from selling beef to other countries because you put tariffs on them. So we can't sell our beef, but you're letting somebody else come in and sell their beef. And you gave them $20 billion. That $20 billion could be used to take care of the needs of the people. That $20 billion could be used for healthcare. That $20 billion could be used for education. That $20 billion could be used, for housing. That $20 billion could be used for the people who said in their voting, you want to take care of our wants, or this is what we want. But now our needs are not being met. And so the question becomes to all of us, we have to have the conversation about what we need and what we want. What are we sacrificing? Are we sacrificing our needs for what we want? Because what we want, we're not getting, and well, I guess in a way we're getting, but look at the need. When you had soldiers at food banks, when you had federal workers working for free to make sure you get your want, but then they're not getting their need. So how do we play that out? Do we think about that? Do we have the conversation about it? Do we, what do we do? I'm kind of perplexed because what do we do? And so, that's the conversation this morning. That's the topic this morning. You know, how are we looking at how are we balancing out our needs based on our wants? Any comments, Denise?
Well, I think that for me, what I feel like is that it's past time for a revolution. That's really what it is. And the people, we talked about this with Jesse before we came on to the show, that we got to figure out what's keeping people scared. We got to eliminate, eradicate, obliterate the fear that they have for speaking up. And I feel like the only way that you can do that is to first be honest about yourself and say, listen, my entire life is tied to these systems. So when you talk about a revolution, you're going to have to give me a way to get out of these systems in order to fight. Because I can't fight right now because I don't want to lose my job, because that's my livelihood. I got a family to take care of. I got children to feed. And we understand all of that. But there has to come a time in somebody's life where you say, none of what the government is offering me is worth my freedom, is worth my liberation, because we're headed back to enslavement. The federal workers are already being enslaved. Cheap labor, free labor, that's what this country was built on. And that's what they continue to make America great again. That's where they want to go back to. Something just popped up on my feed about the reinstatement of the removed Confederate statues. So this administration is all about taking us back to the days where they feel like they can continue to be anti-Black and basically anti-everything that's not white nationalism or Christian nationalism. So what is it going to take for you to say enough is enough? I don't care what I have to lose. I don't care what job I have to be. I don't care where I have to do. Whatever it is, I don't want to lose my job. Even if I have to lose my 6-figure job, it's not worth my freedom. It's not worth my liberation. It's not worth my peace. So for me, that's the question. What would it take for you?
Yeah, and then we also, because there are people who don't understand when I hear going back to enslavement. The one thing that a lot of people are missing is that this new enslavement is just not going to be Black. It's just not going to be brown people. It's just not going to be indigenous people. It's going to be poor white people too. You know, because the needs that we are, it's amazing. Excuse me. It's amazing to me that I will see or be in communities or be in spaces where I'm looking at a lot of the people who are fighting or who are protesting, who are in these food lines, in fighting for their Medicaid or fighting for their Medicaid rights, fighting for their housing rights, are poor white people. You know, and it's almost like this is not supposed to be me, because at the end of the day, just like these ranchers who voted for, who supported, they had this want and support, but now they realize I'm caught up in this same capitalism thing where now I'm being forced to work my farm, work my ranch for free, because I'm not going to get what I need in the price for the work that I've done. I'm not going to get it. So this new enslavement is going to encompass a whole range of the population, and we have to sit down. And I think the one thing that happens, and me and my co-host Denise would have conversations, and I would push back to the point that it would frustrate me, you know, and I would just
get up and walk out. Handfolds.
But the one thing that I had to understand, if you're not willing to get in the conversation, you miss information that's going to help you. You have to rethink. And a lot of times we don't want to rethink because we are comfortable where we are. And that's what's going on now. That's what's going on now. That you have one segment of people who have this idea, and that's what they're standing on. But you have another segment of people who are looking and said, no, the system doesn't work for me. The system is not helping me. In fact, the system is hurting me. You know, and so I need to figure out a way how to get my needs met.
Lo, what's up, Lo?
What's up, Lo?
Hotep said, vote those rascals out. And we talk about voting a lot, and I do agree that we should vote. However, I feel like the system in which we are voting is corrupt. It is no longer work. It hasn't ever worked for us. And so we've got to figure out how to do the both and. Yes, we need to vote, but we need a new system of voting, like the way that it works. Because right now, again, even if everybody did try to vote now, we would still have some shenanigans going on that would suppress our vote. So we've got to work to get a new system and work to make sure that people are voting as well. We've got to do both of them simultaneously.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Denise, because now there is basically a race between states to try to figure out the power structure, you know, with this redistricting, excuse me, because we always talk about this. If voting wasn't so important, why are they working so hard to make it difficult? You know, and this is what they said. We're not suppressing your vote. This is not voter suppression. We're not stopping you from voting. What we're doing is limiting your access and limiting who can vote.
And that's not suppression?
It is suppression.
Absolutely.
But they try to frame it. They try to frame it like it's not, to make you feel good, to make you feel like, oh, what they say it's not. But how can it not be if it's stopping you from voting, or it's changing the dynamic in this redistricting to create places where people of color, people I'm not going to even go there. I'm just going to say it like this: where people of color are losing places where they have the majority, where they can vote to put people in who have the same lived experiences or who can represent them more. And that's what I mean. You know, when you start talking to people and they tell you what they want. But if you're pushing for what you want and you are blind to your need, you know, you can get what you want, but at the end of the day, you're losing what you need. And that's the problem. We don't think it, a lot of people don't think it all the way through. One of the meetings I have to go to this morning is with the city of Little Rock. And talking about the city employees that we represent as the union, how they are underpaid. So we are pushing for that. But when I talk to some of the city employees and in these conversations, it's some things that come up that I asked them, okay, this is what you want, you know, but then you want to sacrifice your need. And what I mean is, in this city, about 70% of the budget go to fire and police. 70% of your budget go to fire and police. So that means there's only 30% left to distribute around in all these areas. Now, when I talk to some of these employees, they will say, listen, I want to make sure that, you know, that the fire department is there, you know, in case my house get on fire, or I want police protection. I want to make sure that the police are in my neighborhood. I want to make sure that the police is there for me. I want that. Okay, you want that. Now you're pushing and you're voting for that, but what about your need? Now you want to get paid. You want this. And I said, but you sacrificed over here to get this want over here, and now you're fighting for your need. And I said, what if you did it the other way around? Hey, you know what? I need this, you know, and this over here, you got to figure something else out. And it's like, I think we were having this conversation one time, Denise, about when you were younger, and your parents would tell you, hey, listen, do you want these type of shoes, or do you want a vacation? You know, hey, I want a vacation. So you got to sacrifice and wear these shoes. Sometimes we have to make that decision. You know what? I will sacrifice here my want so I can get my need. And sometimes it's difficult because, like you said, Denise, when we are so invested in the system, it's hard. It's hard to break away from it.
I think that one of the reasons that we're having such difficulty moving forward and making more progress than we are is because we keep trying to take race off the table. We don't want to have real conversations about what it means to talk about, delve into deeply this construct of race that has been created for us that governs all of our lives. I still remember the young man, James, that you had on your show, James and Gary, and I said something about the system, and he cut me off and said, there is no system. See, right there, we got a problem. Because first of all, if you don't see the system, if you don't recognize it in your life, that's one thing. But for you to tell me that it's not a part of my life, that's something else that you know nothing about. And so you erase my experience in favor of your experience. And that is the problem. And that's why poor white people have the problem that they have right now. And they didn't just start having this problem. They've had this problem since the inception of this country. As long as you can say, at least I'm not a nigga, you're not worried about anything. That's what you want more than anything else. To be able to say, at least I'm not a nigga. It doesn't matter that you don't have health care. It doesn't matter that your grocery stores are not in your area. It doesn't matter that your children are not being accurately educated. Nothing else matters as long as I'm not a nigga. And until we are able to get people to at least say it in yourself, say it to yourself. You know that's how you feel. Look in the mirror and say, that's who I am. Maybe then we can have a real conversation and then we can make better progress. Until then, I'm going to be over here fighting. And I need somebody to fight with me. Revolution. That's what we need.
Yeah, and one of the things we have to understand, there is a system. There is a system. Whether you believe it, you know, this government is run on a system. And if you don't believe me, look at the shutdown. The system, you know, even though you would say the system has shut down, it, in a way, it hasn't, because people still got to go to work. It's some things that still have to go. That system still have to run. When you go to work, you know, you say you work wherever you work at, it may be something going on, but they will tell you, you still got to come to work. You still got to come to work. You still got to do this. You still got to do that. It's a system. And we don't truly understand that, because there are some people who will say, well, I have what I want. And when you have that idea, I have what I want, then you miss out that we're going to take your rights away from you. You know, you need your rights, but we're going to take them away from you. You need health care. It may not affect you, but I bet you it affects somebody in your community, somebody in your family, your extended family. You know, you may have a nice house, but what about somebody else in your family? What about somebody else in your neighborhood? Sometimes we care so much about only what we want, what we have, that we dismiss everybody else. And I used to hate to hear people say this. Oh, I grew up poor and didn't have anything, and I pulled myself up and I became successful. Okay, so you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, to say, but you had boots to pull up. You had some straps to pull up. There are some people, they ain't got no boots, they ain't got no strings, they ain't got no feet to pull up, to pull themselves up, and then they're dismissed. So those are some of the questions that we have to ask. Those are some of the conversations. Hey, listen, I got to get out of here. I put it out there for you. I know Denise is gonna take it home for me, so I don't have to worry about it. So I will. I'm gone. I'm for the next 2 Thursdays for the workplace. My co-host is gonna be here. have to go and go help the people. So I will see you guys in 3 weeks. Take care. Talk to you later.
Be careful, safe travels. Okay, so Hotep just sent a note that said, when you believe in things you don't understand, then you suffer. That's a quote from a Stevie Wonder song. And the question again becomes about this understanding. What is it that you understand? Most of us understand what's happening in our own lives. But when it comes to somebody else's life, we don't understand, and we don't have a willingness. We don't have a desire to understand. And why is that? And for me, I'm going to always have race on the table, always. There's this post that I put on my Facebook. I rarely engage with Facebook like that. I usually am posting flyers about the show or something like that. But someone sent me a TikTok of a white man, a man that this world calls white, and he's doing an excellent job talking about Obamacare and what's really going on around that. And I posted it because I said, when I post this is going to help somebody. I don't know who, but this is going to help somebody understand. But as I was watching him, I said to myself, I wish that he had called it the Affordable Health Care. Because if he had called it the Affordable Health Care Act, more people would understand, because they would have listened to the entire thing. It's about, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I don't know. It's a little longer than what we're used to these days, but it's well worth the listen. But I said to myself, it's a whole group of people. As soon as they see, because they have the caption underneath his speaking, for those of us who are hard of hearing, you can read it. And as soon as they see Obamacare on their screen, they're not going to listen, because they've been duped into believing that Obama did all of these things that have hurt all of us, and we're still feeling the ramifications of it because Obama. But why were they so upset about Obama? Because he's black. That's why. He's a black man in America. That's why. So if we can rise above that, Tony's talking about, what do we need? We need to be able to understand each other better. Are you willing to do that? We need to be able to center somebody else's story. Are you willing to do that? We need to be able to coexist as humans. Are you willing to do that? We need you to stop trying to beat us over the head with your religion. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to change the way that we live amongst each other? And I talk about this all the time. The spirit of Salbona. The spirit of Salbona says, listen, we are one. I don't care how you feel about it. I don't care what you think about it. I don't care how bad you wish it was not true. It is what it is, and it cannot change. We are human. And as humans, we ought to be able to see each other in the fullness of your divine essence. We ought to be able to do that. Why can't you see God in somebody's eyes? Because we're too busy judging the rest of their lives. Nobody's asking you to agree with who I date. Nobody's asking you to agree with where I live. Nobody's asking you to agree with what kind of car I drive. Those things are totally irrelevant. The world is about, how do we coexist? How do we harmonize? Harmonize meaning that we're singing on different notes, but we can come together and make a chord. And that chord can carry us, and the music will save us. What are you willing to do? How can we evoke in you a desire to look beyond the me and my house? I know that's a scripture in the Bible. I've preached it several times. As for me and my house. But the reason the prophet ends up saying that is because he comes to a place with a person that says, listen, I'm no longer willing to walk with you through this conversation. I'm going to stop right here. And because I'm just going to claim it. Well, I don't care what y'all do. As for me and my house. But we got to get beyond it. We do care what you do, because of the spirit of Salbona, that is the oneness. What you do in your house affects me. What I do in my house affects you. When I'm talking about my house, my convictions, my beliefs, my faith, how I move, how I navigate, how I live and breathe among you. Who I vote for affects you. Who I don't vote for affects you. All of us are working together, or we should be working together. So we've got to be able to listen to each other and be willing to take the hard steps. Toney mentioned about how we had, when we first started doing the show, I don't think I've ever told y'all this. I'm just about to be honest. And you know what? I should have, well, I didn't have a chance to say it while he was here. I'll send him the link to this show so that he won't think that I was saying something behind his back. Because people who are really in relationship with me, who are in my circles, you know that I say the same thing no matter where I am. I say the same thing in front of all people in all places. It does not matter to me. And so I don't have a problem saying this to Toney, but I haven't ever said it before. But Toney and I met because I was facilitating a workshop, and it was about courageous conversations. And then it was after that he invited three of us. It was Carissa Rogers, me. I can't remember the third person. Invited the three of us onto. I don't know. At the time, I don't know if it was Community Voices or the workplace. I don't really remember that part. But whatever the comments were after the show, he reached out to me again and said, "Hey, would you consider being a co-host?" Oh, it must have been the workplace, I guess. I don't know. And so I said yes. So Toney and I would get into such heated conversations, what my brother calls with his wife, spirited conversations, that there have been times when he's walked out. There have been times when we were raising our voices. We never called each other out of her name. He did. Yes, he did, but it was behind my back. It was behind my back. One time he threw down the headphones in the studio because he was so, and walked out because he was so upset about what was going on. And so I finally said to myself, listen, I can't do this. I just cannot do this. I need my own show. So I went to Toney and I said, I need my own show. And he said, well, okay, let's see what's going on. Let's see what we can do. And it just so happens that Neil was ready to move in a different direction away from Community Voices. And so I was called and tapped to say, hey, you can take this spot right here. It's like, okay, fine. I got everything together. I was so excited. I had done all of this prep work. I was even testing out my conversation in community the same way that I do with my sermons. I got to preach on the second Sunday of this month, and I've already been sending out feelers. Hey, what do you think about suicide? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Because I want to hear from the people. I want to hear their voices, and it informs what I'm going to say. And he said, okay, so I'm really excited. And I walk into the room for my first time hosting on Community Voices, and Toney walks in the room behind me. And I looked at him, what is happening right now? Because the only reason I asked for my show was because I wanted to get away from him, because I felt like we were not moving. Look, I ain't gonna be able to survive listening to him. And then he said, no, I'm the co-host of this show. So if you're the host, that makes me the co-host. And when I tell you I was dejected and deflated, I don't even know how I made it through that first show. But what had to happen was for me to say, listen, you don't get to choose the humans that come into your space. You don't get to choose their philosophies. You don't get to choose their beliefs. You don't get to choose their convictions. You don't get to choose their faith, but you do have to respect them as human. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to give up your opportunity to get exactly what you wanted, which was to be on a show by yourself, to have a show that you can host just because you don't like what he says? Or are you willing to say, hey, how can we make this work together? And I went to Mr. John, and I said to Mr. John, no, I know what happened. I had a show by myself. Toney couldn't be there that day. And I was talking all by myself for an hour. And I went to him and I was like, it's hard to talk for an hour all by yourself. Wait, let me get this call and then I'll finish. Caller, you're live on the air, KABF. Thanks for calling. Caller?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, but we can also hear your radio. Can you turn that in?
Okay. I believe I have said this once before. Oh, yes, I can. The final wall, we hear them talk about the war, Armageddon, and all of that. So people is really thinking maybe it's going to be a physical fighting wall. The final wall is just ignorance. If you are ignorant and don't have the proper knowledge, you can't go nowhere. You're going to be trapped. You stay trapped into ignorance. So you have to have true pure knowledge to bring people out of the situation. And that don't mean there's no one person. That means the whole, everybody has to have some real, that's what the book be talking about when it said, to know the truth will make you free. Now people they say, okay, I got faith. But they don't really understand what faith is. Faith is a pure faith that will help you. If you have it's a vibration of frequency that you have to be in tune with the divine. It's active. But you have to be in tune. Everybody Jesus said your faith makes you whole. He didn't say my faith is. Your frequency, your vibration, the way we are living and vibrating on what plane we are. This is what will destroy the system and thing that we have. But as long as you vibrate low, you ain't going nowhere, really. I'm just being honest about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. I agree with the caller 100%. Here's my problem. Here's the problem that I have all the time. Is that what I'm looking for, what I'm trying to figure out, what I'm searching for in this world is whatever that key is that will unlock your mind, unlock your bias, unlock your stereotypes and your prejudice so that you could even just see for yourself about yourself that you're operating on a low vibration. So we say that to people that your vibrations are low. We say that to people that it's possible for you to raise them up. We say that to people that iron sharpens iron. We say that. But do they receive that? Do we know that? Do they know that you're talking about them? A lot of times when we go to church and we hear a sermon, some people in the congregation will say, oh my goodness, so-and-so needs to be here to hear this. Well, so-and-so ain't here, but you are. What are you hearing for yourself? And that becomes a problem. We can't see ourselves. And so one of the things that did happen in the relationship with me and Toney is that because we were, let me first go back to what Mr. John told me. So I said, Mr. John, oh my goodness, it's so hard to talk for 1 hour all by myself. What do I need to do? I was seeking wisdom and counsel from John Kane. I mean, like, why would I not? And he said, you need to call somebody, you need somebody else on your show so that you can have point counterpoint. That's what he said. And he said, you don't even have to create it with you and Toney. Y'all already have point counterpoint. And so I was thinking, so at first I looked at it like, oh, okay, we get ready to debate. Oh, okay, we're going to go at it. We're going to go toe to toe. And then I had to honor something that Phyllis Brown said to me one day. She called, she listened to a show, and afterwards she called me and said, I don't remember verbatim. I'm just going to tell you how I heard it and what I received from it. She said, you sound angry. I don't think it's effective to be angry when you're speaking, because people are gonna, be turned off by the anger. What I need you to do is learn how to speak from a place of power. We can hear you better from that space than we can from the space of anger. So taking what Mr. John Kane said about having a point counterpoint, and taking what Phyllis said about not letting it be about anger and not coming for the person, then perhaps you can come up with a show that community voices can thrive with, can live into. And so in order to do that, I had to say, okay, so now I gotta let my guard down, because one thing Toney did say to me, he said, Denise, you always on ready. You sit on ready. And so he said, you can't hear me because you already on, you're just waiting to get in. And so I had to think about that because I didn't know that about myself. He had to show that to me through this relationship of being co-host and co-host on the show. And then I also learned some things about me in terms of my complicity with the system, especially the system of toxic masculinity. Because I grew up with a daddy that was absolutely marred by toxic masculinity. And so there was a way that I expected Black men in particular to show up. And I would only let them show up in that one way in my life, but only in relationship with Toney. I was like, oh, it's another way you can be Black? Wait. You can be sensitive and wait. I didn't even know I felt that way. And so when the caller says, we got to realize that some of us are operating on a low vibration, the only way we're even going to recognize it in ourselves is to be in relationship with a person who offers a counterpoint to our lives, a person who does not think the same way that you do, a person who does not believe the same thing that you believe, a person who does not go to the same church that you go to, but that you say, okay, together we can work through whatever our differences are. And Hotep said it a few minutes ago. He sent in the message that said, agree to disagree. We got to figure out that what we have to understand is that our lives are not full. Our lives are not as rich as they should be until we have the counterpoint, because it's the counterpoint that lets you see you. Because the echo chamber, when you're in the room with all the people that believe the same way that you do, y'all can't see yourselves. You don't realize the harm you're causing, or that you don't even want to admit that you do cause harm. But all of us cause harm. We have the ability to be good and evil at the same time. We have that ability. I can walk in one room and be in a space of power, and I can walk in another room and be in the space of the oppressed. We all have that kind of privilege that depends on where we are and who we're talking to. And so we are not going to hear ourselves until we allow somebody else's life to have an impact on us. So if I tell you that my life is about the system, then you should say, oh my goodness, tell me some more about that. Well, I don't know, what do you mean? Let me hear you. Position yourself to hear. And when I say hear, active listening, conscious listening is different from hearing somebody. To hear somebody just means you make space for them to talk. But to listen to them says I make space for them to talk without looking for my opportunity to talk back. And to be consciously listening means that I'm going to open myself up to see how their story is affecting my story, how their story informs my story, how their story impacts. I'm going to engage this conversation. I'm going to walk away still thinking about it. I'm going to hide it in my heart. I'm going to carry it in my spirit so that in the day when the time comes, those of you who believe in a God, you believe in the Holy Spirit, you believe in the universe, if that's what you believe, there is a time when something bubbles up in you that was in there that you weren't paying attention to, but it came into your being because you were listening to something. That's why we talk so much, well, maybe we don't talk enough about being careful. I had a friend one time, I thought he was a fanatic, but now when I look back on it, he was onto something. He's my best friend today. We met in high school. We were both presidents of our student body, and the governor at the time was meeting with the high school student body presidents to talk about youth and government, civil, all of that stuff. And that's where we met. And he was, I thought he was really a fanatic. But he used to say, I have to guard my eye. I have an eye gate, I have an ear gate, and I have a mouth gate. And I have to guard those at all times. I have to be careful what I say. I have to be careful what I watch. I have to be careful what I choose to listen to. So at the time, he only listened to Christian music. Now, I agree that Christian music can feed you, but I don't think that's the only thing that can feed you, because we just had an example of that when Hotep sent in what Stevie Wonder said. So Stevie Wonder can speak to you just as much as the Bible can. Christian songs, gospel songs can speak to you because there's a message in there. And whether we want to believe it or not, artists are inspired by whoever their God is. They don't just come up, oh, I remember I was talking to Miss Sarah, my new friend, Miss Sarah, 89 years old. She's going to be on Community Voices on November 11th. So November 4th, we have Mike Orndorff. November 11th, we have Miss Sarah Faison. November 18th, we have Dr. Karama Neal. And November 25th, we have Ashton Hall. But I was talking to her. She loves poetry, Miss Sarah. She loves poetry, and she'll just recite it. Just off the bat, just recite it. And so she was telling me about this one particular poem that she likes that was about behind the clouds, back behind the clouds. And she told me all the words. I don't remember all the words. I had to go look it up, and I still don't remember all the words. But it was something about what can be seen behind the clouds. And she was talking about the writer at the time that the poem was written, that there were no airplanes. And so you could not see behind the clouds. So for her to write this, Miss Sarah saying, where did she get that from? What does she know about the clouds? How can she see beyond? There had to be some kind of inspiration coming to her, dropping this knowledge into her spirit so that she can then share it with us. And so whatever that spirit is, whether we're talking about music, whether we're talking about TV, whether we're talking about graphic art, whether we're talking about poetry, whatever that art is, whatever that art form is, it's inspired by something, some force. Now you get even the rap songs, the hip hop songs, the gangster rap, even that comes from inspiration. So what my best friend says, I don't want to stifle anybody else's ability to showcase their art. All of us are divine expressions, and we express in different ways. That's what makes us such a beautiful humanity. That's what makes us a beautiful population of people. But what I do want to do is always make sure that I have the freedom and exercise my liberty to say, okay, you can produce it, but I don't have to hear it. You can write it, but I don't have to read it. You can say it, but I don't have to receive it. And so guarding that becomes an important part of the life cycle. And so that's what we've got to do. We've got to say, listen, just because of who you are as human, I want to make space for you to say what it is that you feel, to tell me how you think about something. Hotep just sent in another message that said we have to listen to understand, not to respond, and not to offend. But we have to present ourselves to each other. That's what Sal Bona says. Present your whole self to me. Invite me in, and I'm going to invite you in. And together, let's see each other. Caller, you're live on the air at KABF. Thanks for calling. Oh, that's your radio. Can you cut your radio down?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me good?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, I wanted to kind of touch on, I heard say about karma. Karma is the system that they tell you about reincarnation. Now, you're on the wheel and you go and you come and you go and come. But once you understand the life of even Yahshua really talking about Sophia in a sense. Now, this light goes around you. You are putting out this light. And in the system of karma, your name is you raised out of that system. You are no longer so on this system of karma. You are not under that judgment no more. You are completely wiped out. It's deeper than what we think it is. It's really deep, But I don't really, kind of like to get off these deeper, some of these things. But you are eliminated. You are no longer going to be juried by this so-called all that stuff that they be telling you about before the throne. That's wiped out, all your self-forgiven, and you get going on to the higher plane. But that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, caller. You know what, caller? I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been talking about you behind your back. I've been asking everybody, do y'all know who this is that's calling in? Do y'all know his name? Do you know his phone number? I'm trying to get to you. I just want you to know that, caller. I am trying to find you. I want to sit at your feet. Caller, you're live on the air at KABF. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, Sister Denise, Brother Toney.
Oh, good morning, Ezekiel.
Loyal listeners. The inspiration that Sister Tracy said that the writer of the poem had without any knowledge, if you will, of what's behind the clouds. Well, Ezekiel saw a wheel up in the sky, so, it's been around for a while. Sometimes it manifests in our presence. And when Mr. Toney said something about those who want to fight for their rights, talking about the workers in the city, I'm reminded of conflicts that we have amongst ourselves here in what's being called the ignorant inner city. We fight like Hatfields and McCoys. I don't know if you know anything about them or not.
I've heard of them.
When I grew up, they used to showcase the feud, if you will, between the Highlanders and the Flatlanders, those persons who hated each other so much that whenever they saw one or the other, they would come into conflict right here in America. And we act like that, and we don't even have a reason to have a conflict with each other. We actually say the same thing using different words. That's called harmony, if you will. And when you mention music, classical music, non-classical music, if you want to call it that, all have the same C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And you're a learned musician.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're formally learned, but I know you're a musician. And you even talk like a musician. So, that being said, if we establish harmony in what it is that we are trying to do, we will achieve our objectives. That goes for the workers who make less than McDonald's workers working for the so-called city of Little Rock. I don't know who all these different folks are down there and as the government bodies, I'll put it like that. But I'm sure they have platforms that will align with some of the things that we want, where we don't have to make the sacrifices for, like fire protection and get police protection for whatever that's worth or whatever they call it. Sometimes I think police protection is a slang word for we gonna get them whenever we get this man, because the police always seem to be in the wrong place at the right time, if you know what I mean. They be on the other end of protecting and serve. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully someone will understand what I'm saying, and you'll get to meet that gentleman that you want to sit at his feet.
I hope so.
Achieve his objectives with getting the wages, if you will, for these so-called city workers that's at the bottom of the totem pole for whatever reason, 30% out of 100. 3 out of 10 just won't get it. But we're going to fight for it, and fighting doesn't mean like the Hatfield and McCoy. It's a euphemism, and it means to put forth your energies and efforts to obtain your objectives. And with that, I'll get off the phone. I hope somebody else call back and explain what I said. Thank you once again for allowing me to rant.
Okay. Listeners. I love it when Ezekiel said loyal listeners. I'm going to start saying that, loyal listeners. I like that. But we don't have time for you to call today, but you can absolutely continue to call in at KABF 88.3 FM, 501-433-0088, 501-433-0088. That is the call-in number whenever we have any show. And if you would like to call the office, some people don't want their voices to go out over the airwaves, and we understand that. And so you would rather call and have Charles take a message to get delivered to us, and that's fine too. The number to the office is 501-372-6119, 501-372-6119. I'm going to sign off right now because I want to play the song that Hotep referenced, Superstition by Stevie Wonder. I want to let that be our benediction to send us forth away from this show, the workplace right here, where we are the voice of the people on KABF 88.3 FM. Toney will be gone for the next couple of weeks. He's doing the work, doing the people. Ezekiel bids him good high vibrations so his work can be done, and I'm sure that all of us feel the exact same way. So we'll keep him in our minds as he's traveling, because I don't know about y'all, but I feel some kind of way about traveling these days. And so here we go. Thank you so much for joining us for the workplace. I am the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise, signing off until Tuesday. Well, maybe I'm not. Why isn't it playing? I can't get it to play.
This is KABF in Little Rock, 88.3, the voice of the people in Central Arkansas.